We go way back. Karyn's the executive director up in Openhouse. Openhouse is up in San Francisco. It's a nonprofit that provides housing and services for older LGBTQ individuals. Karyn got her doctoral degree in clinical psychology from the University of Massachusetts and specialized in geriatric psychology. She has worked in aging services throughout her career in clinical, educational, and administrative leadership positions. She is an extremely dynamic leader known for her approach to effective change management and creating programs that effectively serve underrepresented and marginalized older adults. So welcome, Karyn.
Thank you so much, everybody, for having me, and always a pleasure to do anything to help Christina get over the trauma of having to work for me. That's a lifetime commitment. You know, I'm happy you had, it sounds like a very skilled psychologist on that hopefully Christina can get some free support from after my talk as well. Yeah, so such a pleasure to be here. Open House is really proud to be partnering and supporting and cheering on Avenita's leadership and thinking about serving LGBTQ seniors and serving LGBTQ seniors and building community where you are and doing it with us in San Francisco and across the Bay Area. We're just really proud to be your partners in crime and in all good things. So thank you for having me on. It's a real pleasure. I brought some videos with me to show. My Zoom is giving me a weird audio file thing, but maybe I'll have Christina pull one up, but I'm also conscious of timing and wanting to stick to whatever time limits you want. So maybe I'll just start with talking and then we can throw up a video or two depending on time. I mean, it's Saturday afternoon, it's like 6,000 degrees. I feel we should get some videos and some fun along the way, am I right?
Yeah.
So we'll have a good time. So Christina, why don't you pull up my slides and we'll start there. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Open House, what we do, what does it mean to build LGBTQ welcoming housing, and then I know that we also have an incredible speaker and advocate coming on who's going to talk about Santa Clara and what you all are doing. So I like to do slides with mostly pictures because who cares about slides with lots of words? They're really pretty boring. And Christina, if you do view full screen, it'll probably give you, I'll get rid of that. It'll get rid of the little piece. There. Yeah, so Open House was founded in 1998. The story that if we have a time, you'll hear the founder of Open House share is that she was standing in line at the Castro Theater. She looked around and said, where are our seniors? Where are our elders? And what kind of world are we building for them in San Francisco and beyond? And we really started with that goal, and she decided we're going to build LGBTQ welcoming senior housing. I can tell you that when she went into government officials' offices, when she went and started doing community groups about this, people laughed her out of the room. In fact, one of our board members at the time was working at the city and tells a story of one of the heads of the housing department coming and saying, you guys have to come in here and listen to this. This lady thinks they're going to build LGBTQ housing for seniors. And so that really tells you that at that time, a couple of things were true. One is that the LGBTQ community was just coming through, really in many ways, living through the AIDS crisis. Many of our community members had not lived through, obviously, but folks who had come through had not thought about this idea of how will we age. We as a community have not embraced the idea or thought much about what does it mean to grow old and what would we need and what kinds of services should be there. And senior services at the time, and even now, weren't quite thinking about, well, what might be the need specifically for LGBTQ people? And so this was such a crazy idea that people always laugh in San Francisco when you say, let's build housing. But people in particular thought that this was kind of a mind-blowing project. And, you know, as is the case with building housing, it took us until 2016 to actually open our first building. So it's a long journey. So those of you working on it, don't lose faith. Just keep that long trajectory in mind. And I think one of the brilliant pieces of Open House is when we were founded, my brilliance that came way before me, was that we quickly realized that housing alone would never work. And for anyone who works in aging services, for anyone who is aging, who thinks about, you know, your life and your trajectory, what most of us say is, I want to be in my home. That's where I want to be. And we quickly realize that without good services, staying in that home can be really difficult. And so the good news about the housing taking so gosh darn long to build is that it gave us about 20 plus years to really think about what kinds of services did we need. And so Open House's mission is services, housing, and community building for LGBTQ seniors. So we'll skip ahead. I'm giving you the history. You can go back to that first slide still, it's okay. We have now co-developed of 2 building projects. It's the Bay Area's first LGBTQ welcoming affordable senior housing. And we co-developed that project with Mercy Housing. And across our 2 buildings, we have 119 units of LGBTQ welcoming affordable senior housing. Our first building opened in 2016, and our second building opened last summer in 2019. And so we have those units, and then we've also expanded so that we have services that include community engagement, wellness and support, resource and housing navigation. I can talk more about those, but I'm going to focus more on housing today. And while we're really known for our housing, being the first, being called Open House, branding issue, we really are a service organization at heart. So we serve about 3,500 LGBTQ seniors, some of whom live in San Francisco, some of whom live outside of San Francisco, who engage in our services. So we think about what our residents need, but we also think about the broader community and what they need. We also just, you know, early on realized that we couldn't be the only place providing these kinds of services. And so we've been doing cultural humility training for service providers for over 20 years. You can go to the next slide. Thanks, Lugo. So a question I get asked a lot is it really LGBTQ people, and isn't that illegal? In 2014, the San Francisco Chronicle actually read an article where they said, oh, Open House, you know, they're full of it. They say it's going to be LGBTQ housing, but it's affordable housing. And so non-discrimination clauses apply. And so the best they'll ever do is 10% of the people will be LGBTQ. And people still yell at me about that article. I still am getting in trouble for that article. I wasn't the executive director yet, but people remember it because they felt so disappointed. Here we are trying to build a safe place for LGBTQ people, and it's not actually going to be us. Well, it turns out it really is. So 60% of our residents in our buildings identify as LGBTQ. And again, you ask yourself, well, how is that? Because we can't and we shouldn't discriminate based on sexual orientation or gender identity in our housing. We can't and we shouldn't. However, because Open House has been doing what we've been doing for 20 plus years, because we made a really concerted effort to work with the queer community to construct, build, bring this housing around, because we do housing assistance all year round, because we're working with people all the time on finding housing, we were able to really bring in a large number of LGBTQ people to apply to our housing. And we really thought about the way we would do our application approach. I'm happy to talk more about that, but I just wanted to tell people, you will hear discouraging things about this. You will hear that it's not possible. And there are ways to still be a really opening, welcome place to make sure that allies who apply have equal chances in terms of the lottery and everything else with housing, while still centering the experience, the needs of the LGBTQ community. And I just want to say that as far as we've come, I still bring people back to housing alone. I just was on a national LGBTQ housing conference. There's now LGBTQ welcoming affordable housing in, I think, 30 different states across the country. But I do want to say that we still have a pretty long way to go in terms of services. And so while we continue to advocate for more housing, and as you work on building what's going to be the Peninsula or the Santa Clara housing, I really just want to say we've really got to keep working too on this service provision, right? We have to work to build an intergenerational community. I would say we're always fighting to have seniors central in our lives and central in our fight for social justice. We have to make the case that our communities are better with older people in it. And lastly, we still have a lot of work to do to transform aging services across the Bay Area and quote unquote, even in San Francisco, right? So what the data in San Francisco shows us is that LGBTQ seniors are still 2.5 times less likely to access available services than their heterosexual cisgendered counterparts. And the more your setting is care dependent, so adult day healthcare, adult day programs, the smaller and smaller number you see of LGBTQ people. When we talk to trans people and we say, geez, do you think aging services are what they need to be to keep you aging safe at home? They say, no way. And in fact, many of them openly talk about thinking about suicide or ending their life before they would consider going into a care dependent setting. That is completely unacceptable and a status quo that none of us should be okay accepting. And so Open House has really gone from thinking now about how do we not just train, but how do we actually transform existing aging services? And that's a lot of what we're working on. So I'm going to stop there because I'm not sure on how much time you want me to go and how we're doing. But Christina, I'm happy to have you show the video that either of the videos. We have a video that was from our first housing when it opened. We have a video on one of our first residents. And I'm also just happy to have people put questions into the chat. Or we can make time. I know we have another speaker as well. Whatever y'all need, I'm here for you. You're the boss, Christina, you're the boss.
Let's do the first video you sent, and then we'll go to Consuelo Hernandez, who's on from Santa Clara County Supportive Housing Office.
Sounds great.
All right, so I'm sharing.
Make sure to click that sound box.
Share computer sound, right there. Thank you. And now it's thinking about whether or not it wants to play.
So I came to San Francisco in the 1970s to live an out life. I had an epiphany one day. I was standing in line at the Castro Theater, and I looked up and down the line, and I saw all these people my age looking beautiful in the Castro on a sunny day, and I thought, where are our elders?
The longer I've lived in San Francisco, the more difficult it's become to find housing.
And it seemed like every day I was getting a phone call from a friend or a friend of a friend saying, can you help? I'm being forced to move, and I don't know where to go.
I worried about where I was going to live.
I sort of fell on some hard times, and I became homeless for a short time.
Living in the Tenderloin was a little difficult for me. The level of safety is not there for a lot of people.
We know that 25% of LGBT seniors can tell you about an incident where they were harassed in the last year, right here in San Francisco.
So one day I was out for a walk, and I said, we're going to build housing and services for seniors.
We're thrilled that we have headquarters at the Bob Ross LGBT Center and where we're able to operate our programs and services. My staff are amazing. We're ready to provide the really amazing integration between what it means to live here, but also what it means to be a part of the greater Open House community.
I'm amazed at what Open House stands for and what they're doing for our community and for the future of our community. Senior LGBT people don't have people that ask about them and how they're doing and do they need anything and is there a safe place for you to live. Most of us are estranged from our families and we don't have children.
The Open House staff are here on site every day so that they can both provide the right programming on site, but also so they can integrate residents into the larger network of what Open House does.
A place where it allows you to be all the dimensions that you are as a person.
Being amongst my peers here, living and aging gracefully with love and dignity and respect, and that's what I feel in this building, that people are watching out for my well-being and love me for who I am.
When I walk into this building and I had the opportunity, this most amazing opportunities to speak with the residents here, it's really hard not to cry. To see how happy people are to be here, to see how much love actually went into the building of this building. I mean, you can't be in this building and not feel this love.
Recognizing the value, the wisdom, the strength of LGBT elders. I'm trying to create the world that I want to grow old in.
Just because we're seniors doesn't mean that we don't have a desire to continue to flourish and learn.
As a senior, strong, empowered, transgendered woman, I believe that life experiences are worth listening to and sharing.
And this organization won't be done until every single LGBT senior has a place where they feel home, where they feel seen, where they feel loved, where they feel a part of a community. And there's a lot of work to do before we're there.
Welcome home. Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
That was great.
I love it so
So-
much, Karen. That's an awesome video. Thomas, just hold on one second. If you have questions for Karen, I know today got a little wonky, so I apologize. If you have questions, please ask them in chat. Karen, I did not share your contact info, but I can definitely put that in the chat as well. Anything else to add before I move on to Consuelo with Santa Clara County?
No, feel free to put questions. Feel free once we're out of this horrific stuck in place, as I like to call it, to come visit us. And yeah, the video we tried to show earlier is we got to keep just thinking outside the box. So we actually did a socially distanced drag show, knowing that a lot of folks weren't getting access to any programming. And so anyway, you can find all of that on our YouTube channel and watch fun videos. And we're just so proud to be in community with you guys and so appreciative of the work you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Consuelo, if you could unmute, you are up next. Consuelo?
Yay. I just wanted to point out, Karen, that I think it's really great what you guys are doing, and that the fact that how you pointed out that it's not necessarily 100% LGBTQ housing, but it is 100% LGBTQ welcoming, and a place where people see LGBTQ seniors do have a place to call home, feel safe, feel welcome. And that's what I hope that we'll be able to achieve here in Santa Clara County at some point, because and I appreciate what you said about don't get discouraged, because I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of discouraging words out there for us and for our community to get this put into place. So I appreciate you pointing out that don't let that get to you. Don't give up, and I think outside of the box, like you said, we can make anything happen. There's no real roadblocks, are just obstacles, right, for us to overcome. So how you doing, Consuelo? Are you ready to go? I think she can't unmute. Can somebody unmute her?
I asked her to unmute.
There she goes.
Okay, I think it's working now.
Yay.
Can you hear me okay? Sorry, everybody.
We can.
A little dark where I am. Well, happy Saturday, everybody. Consuelo Hernandez, I'm the acting director with the Office of Supportive Housing. I don't know if many of you know who I am, but I actually used to work for the city of Palo Alto. So Avenidas is near and dear to my heart. I actually worked with the executive director then on a community development block grant to improve your HVAC system. So I'm really sad not to be with you in person. And I did want to share today a little bit about the work that we're doing. COVID has slowed down some of our progress, but I hope that you can see my screen in just a few seconds. Okay, perhaps not. I'll have to share this with you in the chat, but our office is responsible for the implementation of the 2016 Measure A Affordable Housing Bond. So for those of you that live in the county, in 2016, the voters approved a parcel tax that essentially is raising $950 million towards the development of housing for folks who are extremely low income, and there's some money for first-time home buyers and workforce housing. And so what we've been doing over the last 4 years is building our pipeline of housing development. It includes building homes for seniors. The population in our county is aging. And then there's also an emphasis and a focus on the unhoused population. Within our unhoused population, there is also a need for more units for people that are 50 and older, don't qualify as seniors. And so the spirit of our office is to think creatively and partner with others in the county who are effectively assisting different types of special needs populations. In 2017, the board directed us to focus and identify at least one of those housing units to be for LGBTQ seniors. And we were making really great progress. We had 2 sites identified. We did some research. There's a property in San Diego that we really liked. We met with the developer for that community. They came up here. We visited a few sites and trying to partner with a service provider because, as the previous speaker noted, the services are critical in the work. And unfortunately, a lot of that work stopped because of COVID. Our office has been activated as disaster service workers, primarily handling all of the housing for folks that need to isolate or are unhoused and are susceptible to COVID. But our work is starting now to ramp back up. So I was really excited when you all reached out about presenting today, because I think there is an opportunity for us to take the next steps in identifying a site that we can start to develop, and maybe even coming back to this group about what are the types of services, what should the facility look like. I think a lot of times we focus on the exterior of the building, but really it's focusing in on what should the inside look like. And the previous speaker mentioned, there are fair housing laws that we have to take into consideration, but working with a developer who's familiar with the type of housing makes that a lot easier. We are working, I see that Maribel is on your agenda for later today. I'm sure she's going to talk to you about some of the work that we've been doing as a county, so I won't share that with you. I know she's going to share that, but one of the things that we are looking at is how do we co-develop the services and housing in the same spot, so that there's a proximity to the housing and the services that are needed, whether that's healthcare or programming. That's our goal, is to find areas that where we can develop housing that's close to transit services and fun activities to do after COVID is resolved. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry that I can't share my screen. I will add in the chat box the landing page that shows you all of our developments. You will look through the names and you'll see which ones are dedicated for seniors. Those are not exclusively for LGBTQ seniors, but there are 7 of the 27 developments that are active in our community now dedicated specifically to seniors. And then happy to share more information. If you go onto the website, there's a link. If you click on that link, it'll show you a description of the project, how many units, and the income levels that each is targeted for. Again, the housing bond is primarily for extremely low income and very low income, but we have the ability to leverage that money so that we can actually fund and finance units that are higher income levels. And to give you an example, an AMI, and I can add this to the chat as well, somebody who earns 30% of the area median income and is single is around $40,000, which is not a lot, but the beauty of that is they have a unit that they can stay in that is low income, and they are connected to different types of services as they need. So I know you all are running a little behind. Happy to take questions.
Okay, so thank you very much, Consuelo. So if anybody has any questions for Consuelo, you could I suppose you could put them in the chat, but to also just let you know, after the conference, we're going to be emailing out a survey, and we'd really appreciate it if you filled it out. On the survey, it's going to ask what you thought of the conference, and there's also going to be an area for you to ask questions, which we'll give to the appropriate person to respond to. And just to remind you that we are a program that's funded by the county, and so we do need to show that we are making a difference in the community in some way to justify that funding. So that's why these surveys are really important for us. So I know nobody likes to fill out surveys and they'd rather just dismiss it. But for me, would you please fill them out and not ignore it? Thank you. So next, I'd like to introduce the next speaker for legal issues, Diane. Are you ready? Diane Gadati.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, and this is Diana's brother, Dan Dean, and